Good afternoon, everyone. I think barely afternoon, and welcome to the Noontime Knowledge Series. It's really great to get together with so many fundraising volunteers and presidential counselors, donors to the university. I am told that this is a record number, actually, that we're having joining us today for a Noontime Knowledge Series session. And I could not be more pleased by your participation. So thank you very, very much for joining. I'm Damon Sims, the Vice President for Student Affairs. I just, in the last week or two, started my 15th year in this role. And I think that what we're talking about today, what we're getting a chance to talk about together, the Lions Pantry initiative, the One Big Week effort, are two of the best things I've seen us do at the university. And we're going to hear from three wonderful leaders who really are on the front lines combating food insecurity. And they want to tell you what they're trying to do and how you can be helpful to them in this cause that I think is very important to all of us and certainly very impactful to our students. After we have a little bit of a presentation from our panel, we're going to have a question and answer session. So you can enter questions really whenever you like in the chat box. We'll try to keep track of those, but you can also raise your hand during Q&A, and I think you can unmute yourself and probably ask some questions that way. So let me begin, though, by providing very briefly some context to get us rolling. As I said, I've been in this role for quite some time. I've worked in student affairs at a Big Ten institution now for 40 years in the Chief Student Affairs Office of one Big Ten university or another. And I think there are two things I've learned through that long experience. One is that these places, and certainly this is true of Penn State, are extraordinarily diverse. You can't think of our student population ever as monolithic. In this instance, I think what we're talking about today, we have to understand that we have students who do quite well financially. We have haves and we have have-nots. I'm often told when I talk about food insecurity issues among students that folks don't understand how I could be talking about such a thing because they see so many students who seem to be living well and driving nice cars and they're dining in the best restaurants in town. But I remind them that that's one aspect of the student experience, that we have a great many students who unfortunately face real financial challenges. And there is absolutely no connection, no doubt that the connection between student success and one's financial circumstance is very evident. So we talk a lot about scholarships and financial aid of various sorts, all of which are very important and provide some important support to our students. Yet for some students, a growing number of students perhaps, the needs are really even more basic than scholarship support. We did a study a few years ago, really before the pandemic. We became interested in trying to understand this issue a little more clearly. So in 2019, we surveyed our students and discovered that 1 in 5 had skipped meals or limited their food intake in some way. I think that was surprising to a great many people that this issue impacts that number of students at Penn State. And the second thing I've learned, beyond just that this is a very diverse student population, and we have to understand that too many of our students are faced with these financial issues and food insecurity that results from them. The second thing I've learned is that if you listen to students, you often learn most quickly what it is that students need from us. And so the students are the ones who created the Lions Pantry that you're going to hear a lot about this afternoon. They're just doing remarkable work that all of you can support. But this is an initiative that grew out of student recognition of the needs of other students and a desire among students to address those needs as much as they possibly can. So we're talking today about the Lions Pantry, and we're going to talk later about the One Big Week initiative. But the Lions Pantry is really part of a broader effort the university is engaged in that addresses housing insecurity, other kinds of insecurity too. But at the core of that effort really is the Lions Pantry and what we're doing to address food insecurity. So as I mentioned, I'm joined by three friends who have considerable experience and insight about these issues, can talk to you about their efforts and the efforts that others like them are engaged in to address these concerns. I think we're first going to hear from Taylor Dorsett. Taylor is the president of the Lions Pantry, and I'm going to have her tell you a little bit about herself. She's a native of Virginia, and what's interesting to me about Taylor, and I've met with Taylor a number of times, is her passion about this issue. It's as deep and sincere as it can be. She's been a food pantry volunteer, not only at Penn State, but in her hometown for quite some time. So I hope she shares a little bit of that experience with you. And then Heidi Gibson, who's one of the newer staff members in student affairs. We brought Heidi on board not too long ago to be the Lions Pantry manager, because we realized this is really growing in scope and importance to our university. So we created a new position in student affairs that Heidi has, where she is working closely with Taylor and other students. A little later, we're going to hear from Jenny Daigle-Benoit, who's many of you know Jenny. She's the executive director of annual giving at Penn State, oversees the annual fundraising activities of various sorts, including the Lion Line and the annual leadership gift program. But most importantly today, we're going to hear about her insights regarding the One Big Week initiative. So with all that said, why don't we get started with Taylor and Heidi, who can give a little bit more insight about themselves, but most importantly, a little insight about the work that they're doing with regard to the pantry. Taylor?
Thank you, Damon. Hi, everyone. It's so nice having you here. Thank you for having me as well. As Damon said, I'm a rising senior from Ashburn, Virginia. I'm majoring in biobehavioral health with a focus in medical law. So I hope to continue my education to law school once I've finished. Another cool thing about me is, as Damon said, I have been volunteering with food pantries for a while. My mom actually has a passion for it. She's looking into starting her own food pantry back home in Virginia. So it's always been kind of a passion of mine. And when I came to Penn State, I just naturally looked for a pantry and found the Lions Pantry. So I got started with the pantry in 2020. I was a student manager, and then I became the first D&I chair, which is diversity and inclusion. And then I ran for president this past semester. And then I'll pass it to Heidi so she can introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Taylor. Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Gibson. And as Damon mentioned, I am fortunate enough to be the first person in this newly created role. And my experience first with Penn State, prior to joining the student affairs team, I was with the Division of Development and Alumni Relations. And I was with that team for a little over 6 years. Working as what they call a frontline fundraiser. My travel area was the Pacific Northwest. And outside of Penn State, and including my time in Penn State, I spent over 12 years as a frontline fundraiser and made some decisions to change things up a little bit for myself and find a role where I could be a little more active in making the difference. And just as I was coming to that decision, this position opened up, and here I am. I couldn't be happier. So I am doing a lot of learning along with everyone else of what this role entails and how I can best support the students. And we're very excited to share the information on this presentation with you and what we have in mind for the coming year. So Haley, may I ask you to, is Jenny introducing herself first and then we do our presentation? I think so. Okay. So I do want to thank you again for that you're here. I appreciate it. It is really wonderful to see so much interest in the work that this student group is doing. And it really is important to emphasize that it is a student group. Their mission is to address and mitigate food insecurity at Penn State University Park campus. and providing other resources as well. Part of that mission is also to reduce the stigma, and we'll focus on that in the next slide. In order to accomplish their mission, they have identified a certain standard focuses, which is right here. And there's me, yours truly, in our temporary space for the pantry from this summer. It was a lot of fun working in there. So the first focus of being student-led and student-run is also student-founded. And that's incredible that the students have gotten this concern and project to the point where they needed to bring on a staff member to help support those students. We do prioritize anonymity. We only ask to see a Penn State ID whenever our guests come to the pantry. And as far as increasing awareness and visibility about food insecurity in the pantry, we're also looking to remove the stigma, creating awareness about the difference between calories and nutrition. There are many studies out there showing the impact of poor nutrition on the ability to study and cognitive performance, and also the efforts of these students. You know, the last focus here is who makes it possible, and it's all student volunteers, student managers, student groups. So my portion here, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor. She can do the heavy lifting on more information about the pantry. So thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Heidi. So yes, as Heidi said, Lions Pantry was founded by students, 8 students, in fact, back in 2014, who saw a need for change at PSU and wanted to go ahead and get that ball rolling. If you haven't seen where the pantry is, it's out by the Arboretum next to the Blue Band building. It's really cute. I love that it's gray. It's like a nice, cute little shed. But it's very homey and has like really nice shelves, and we have put a lot of effort. We actually just did a full renovation. So we have, everything is brand new. We have fridges and freezers, and we're really excited to have everyone come in this semester. Another thing is that how we operate is that we have open hours. So this is where we have student volunteers come in and they help hold open hours based on their own availability. So when I started, I was a student manager and I had the Sunday shift. So I would come in for about 2 to 3 hours and would just run the pantry as a normal grocery store. I got to meet some really cool clients. Like there was one client who came in and was telling me how he was from a different country and he was really interested in spices and really wanted to see progress when it comes to like our selection of spices, and was telling me about like these different spices can go with this to make this really cool dish. So you get to learn a lot being in the pantry, which is really exciting. Another thing we have is Sunday work days. This is open to the public, and people can come in and just help us get the pantry ready for the next week, which is really fun. And then we have 4 sectors of involvement when it comes to being a club. So we obviously have our exec team, which is our amazing exec team in this picture right here. We have student managers, which is what my position was when I was in the pantry, kind of running it like a grocery store. We have a really exciting addition, which is student interns this year. And then we have our club members as well. Could you hit next, please? We also have a nice network of Cub Pantries. So to sublimate, not if someone can't get to our main location, which is kind of out of the way up by Arboretum, we have Cub Pantries, which are these kind of little shelves basically in different locations spread throughout the campus. So if someone can't get to our main pantry, they still have access to food. So this is just a list of different locations. They're pretty much spread throughout the campus. So we have some in West, like in the Tiki building. We have some in UHS. We have one in the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, which is really exciting. So yeah, it's spread throughout the campus, which is really cool. So goals for this year, my personal goals as well as the pantry goals in general is to have more diverse and inclusive food options. As I was telling you, that one client came in asking about spices, which I always think is really interesting, just to hear like what people are looking for from the pantry. Another thing is increasing collaboration. So in this picture, we went to the Health and Human Development alumni brunch, and we like went out there and played golf with them, which was really exciting, and kind of just told them about the pantry. And then another thing is making new partnerships with other student organizations, because at the end of the day, we are a student-led, student-run organization, and we do like to help our fellow students. So yeah. And then I made a QR code if you'd like to follow us on Instagram. We have a really great communications intern named Julia. She's always posting fun little tidbits on our Instagram, so you can scan that if you'd like to see it.
Taylor or Heidi, would it be worthwhile mentioning the open house that you're scheduling? I think some of these folks, if they were available, might be eager to see the pantry if they could.
Yes, absolutely. We have it scheduled for September 9th from 4 to 7 at the pantry location. It's going to be a very simple gathering, and we would love to see you there. And if you are able to make it, please bring a food donation or a household item.
Yeah, well, that was a great summary of where we are and what the ambitions are, I think, for the pantry. I think it's really important, and Taylor and Heidi would be quick to acknowledge that there's a collective partnership here. At the end there, Taylor was mentioning the partnership with other student organizations like the Student Farm and others, but there's a growing group of folks at the university, both students and employees, who are joined together in this purpose, and it's really nice to see that collaboration for such a good cause. Jenny, why don't you talk a little bit about the One Big Week initiative? I think that's a very exciting thing, and you know more about it than anybody on this call, I think.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this call. I'm really thrilled to be here. I want to go back to 2018, because this is really when this collaborative idea started. And it was actually with a chance meeting with someone from Ohio State. And we started talking about the amazing alumni, parents, friends, and students that we both had. I mean, I'm partial to Penn Staters, but we talked about the amazing constituents on both sides. And we wondered how we could partner to really activate our communities to tackle a big problem. So after a number of collaborative meetings and support from leadership, Tackle Hunger was born. And that was in 2019, where we had a head-to-head challenge with Ohio State to see who could raise the most money to address student hunger across the Commonwealth and with Ohio State's Pantry. I am happy to report that we did win that challenge, which was amazing and exciting for all of us. And it just really showed the amazing collaborative spirit of Penn Staters who really came together from across the Commonwealth to help us beat Ohio State. But after that challenge, Ohio State and I started to think about, how can we make this bigger? What can we do next? And so that's where One Big Week started. And that was last year. And that was a challenge with the rest of our Big Ten colleagues. And we thought, individually, we're all great, but together we can be even better. So taking that spirit in mind, we participated in One Big Week last year. And again, Penn Staters showed up and participated, and our numbers were absolutely amazing. Penn State accounted for half of the total gifts for the entire One Big Week challenge, just showing the amazing power of Penn State. And we thought, why don't we do this again this year? It's so exciting to be able to collaborate with our Big Ten colleagues and to help advance Dr. Bendapudi and Penn State's ongoing investment in addressing student hunger, not only with Lions Pantry, but with all of our campuses. So funds donated to One Big Week this year are going to be distributed based on the student enrollment at the individual campuses. So we're helping all of the programs, whether it's a pantry at a campus or food insecurity program, which is really exciting. So this year, starting October 31st and ending on Wednesday, September 7th, we're going to be raising money for the Tackle Hunger Student Fund, again, to support the food pantries and the programs across all of our locations. Now, I will say that One Big Week isn't really a competition, although we do check and see what the other universities are doing, but we do have part of it this year that is a head-to-head competition. Because we're playing Purdue on August 31st, which is a Thursday, or I think that's September 1st, actually, we're doing, we're tapping into that Nittany Lion spirit, and we're doing this head-to-head challenge with Purdue September 1st, where the two universities will go head-to-head to see who can raise the most donors and dollars in a 48-hour time frame. I'm excited for this challenge. I know that we can do this again, a competitive spirit of Penn Staters. So anxious to see how we do. But in the end, it's all of us coming together and really helping this bigger cause, which is so exciting. Although it is still really great to aim to win, of course. The One Big Week, again, is going to start on August 31st. And our website is onebigweek.psu.edu, and that's Penn State's page. And the overall Big Ten page is onebigweek.com. You will be getting emails. We have a really aggressive series of emails. We're doing some texting, calling. We'll have a lot of information out on social. This is the university coming together for one cause, which feels really great when everyone is behind this one effort. And I'm actually looking at some of the names who on the call today, and many of you are previous donors to Tackle Hunger and One Big Week last year. So thank you for your support. And thank you for joining today. We're really, really excited to see what we can do to really make change. And maybe one day we don't have to have an effort like this, because we've really tackled this problem, which is really exciting to think about. So I'm going to pass it back over to Damon, and he will moderate the Q&A. So thank you again.
Thank you, Jenny. And, I think we all share a certain antipathy for Ohio State. So it's a good thing we overcame them. But as a graduate of Indiana University, we have to be equally determined to do in Purdue. Okay. Thank you. We have some questions already, and we'll just take some of those. One of the questions is whether we have thought of partnering with any food chain or other organizations, Chamber of Commerce, that sort of thing. Perhaps Taylor or Heidi have something to say. I might add something to what they have to say.
I'm happy to address that, Taylor, if that's okay with you.
Yep, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. There are not current partnerships outside of the university and the ones that we've mentioned within the university. I am excited to be working with the students this coming fall and the executive board to start to see if they feel they're at a place to start to reach out into the broader community. And the reason I jumped in over Taylor is because I did want to stress that my role and my reason for being here is to help promote and guide the students achieve their goals and their vision. So if that is part of their agenda, I have some ideas and I would love to help them with that, and whatever that looks like, as long as it is in line with their mission and their overall goals.
Yeah, that's well said. I should add that Neeli Bendapudi has talked to me about an effort that was pursued at the University of Louisville, a relationship with Kroger Foods. It was something that was very successful there for their equivalent of our pantry. And she's interested in pursuing something akin to that through a connection to Giant. And she and I are going to be meeting with some leadership there. And then I hope if that conversation at least provides an opening for some interest, to then bring Taylor and Heidi and others of the pantry into that conversation. We have some questions here about how folks can become involved, volunteer perhaps to help you. I think that really invites a larger question about what you think alumni can do most to support the pantry and advance the mission that you are pursuing.
I can say from a student perspective, we always love to have new faces in the pantry, whether that's just you coming to the pantry, helping us stock the shelves for the week, or even just helping us promote to the campus about an event that we're having. I think that word of mouth goes a long way when it comes to Penn State, and especially when you're in a position like being a alumni of Penn State, you have a lot of connections, and that is a lot of different avenues as to where you can help our current students.
And are the all the students volunteers who are working at the pantry? Do we pay any of the intern positions?
Yeah, so we have interns starting this year, which is really exciting. They will be paid positions, but we do still have volunteer positions as well, just to kind of give the best of both worlds. I wanted to start as a, how do I say this? I wanted to start as a volunteer. I wasn't interested in being a paid position because I felt like there would be a different perspective when it came to what I was doing compared to what the interns are doing, which is really exciting because the interns have all these kind of like startup projects. Like we have an intern that's really interested in food systems and working with the student farm, whereas I was just more interested in like the club aspect. So we have kind of everything for everyone's interest. Depending on what you're interested in is how you can get involved. You can go to our Instagram where we post updates about volunteer opportunities, as well as our website. We have a blog where we talk about all of our different volunteer opportunities. And then we also are a club/registered student organization as well. So we do have weekly club meetings that you can attend if you're a student.
So we're talking a lot about the pantry at University Park and the newly expanded space and improvements there, and the Cub Pantries at University Park. But Penn State University has a lot of other campuses and a lot of other students with need. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between our activities here at University Park and the growing activities out on the Commonwealth campuses related to food insecurity?
Yeah, so there have been conversations talking about how we can stay better connected with the Commonwealth campuses, because at the end of the day, we are all Penn State. And that is one of my goals, is to kind of reconnect with them. During COVID, we kind of lost that connection, and I would like to reinstate that to see how we can help them and how they can help us, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to help all of our students, and it is a learning process, and there is no right way. It's only just the way, as I like to call it, just to help everyone as we can.
And I think, if I'm right, that we have something like a pantry at every Penn State location, at every campus now.
Yes, depending on the campus, depends on the type of pantry. Some there's like, I think it's Hazleton has a really dedicated professor who stocks it herself. Some have a smaller pantry similar to ours. So it kind of just depends on the campus, but there is some kind of pantry at each campus, which is really cool.
So my friend Bruce has asked whether there's an endowment for food insecurity or the Lions Pantry. Is there such a thing that you'd like to tell people about, that they might be able to direct their resources to?
Heidi, would you like to answer this one?
Sure. There is an endowment that you can contribute to, and everyone is also welcome to create their own endowment for program support. Any one of my prior development colleagues would be happy to help you walk through those steps of establishing an endowment and contributing to an existing endowment, or making outright gifts. If you prefer your gifts to be spent right away, providing financial resources allows students to, our executive board, to make decisions about other types of things other than the food donations. And it really enhances their experiential learning in their leadership positions and making decisions with resources and budgeting and that type of thing. So that's also very valuable. I have seen, and oh, sorry, go ahead, Damon. I apologize.
Go ahead, Heidi, finish up.
I'm seeing flashes in the chats here about have we worked on corporate relationships or reached out to companies and done that type of thing. And those are all very good questions. It just hasn't been the mission of the student group yet. Their focus to date has been asking fellow students to host or run food drives. New student orientation collects a good amount of food each week that they house those on campus. And now we may or may not be getting in the growth stage that the student group will want to consider that. Another thing to think about is we do want the pantry to be self-sustaining, but ultimately we don't want students to need the pantry. We want the pantry to be strictly for triage, for emergency unexpected situations, and not to sustain a challenging lifestyle. We want to be able to support our students in a different capacity. So for all of you that are on the call today, as you're also considering financial support, you may be hearing about other initiatives in the next few years to come.
Ira, you had your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Thank you for that. I'm not really good at the technology, so I apologize in advance. I'll mess it all up. What is roughly the annual budget for University Park and for the rest of the campuses? Just trying to get a magnitude of what it is you're trying to assess every year from alumni and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. Heidi, do you have a sense of an answer to that question, or Taylor?
Yes, I'll try. I'm sorry, Ned. Can you say that one more time, please?
Basically, what is the
All right.
annual budget for operating the pantry, both at University Park? And if you have any sense, I think the answer for the Commonwealth campuses is more complicated because of the variety of services out there. But if you have a sense of the operating expenses just at University Park, that would be useful.
It would be useful. And I do have some budget numbers. It's funded in a couple of different ways. The students have a fund through a student affairs account. Do you know the balance of that and what that is, Taylor?
No, I knew it before the renovation started, and then once we kind of got into the summer, I lost track of it, honestly. But I know that we do spend a significant amount of money when we do order our food, because obviously we have food coming in from donations like the great people at NSO and just student donations as well, but we do still have to order food regularly to have the pantry stocked to our liking, basically.
So to give you an idea of the processes of this operation so that everyone isn't afraid that we're not paying attention to the finances of the pantry, I started the end of May, and Taylor started over the summer without access previously to the executive board and the funding and that type of thing. So I am working with our finance team on how the finances are structured and figuring that out, learning along the way. Barry Bram is my manager, and he's wonderful in his guidance. And I also have a lot of other team members that are supporting us. Ultimately, it is the student's decision on how the resources are spent.
I think that's a question we could give a more fulsome answer to, Ira. I'll look at that and get back to you. It also raises a question I have actually about all the good questions we're getting that I doubt we're going to have time to go through. Will we be capturing these questions and maybe having a chance to respond to the folks who've offered them? Yes.
Yes, we will, Damon. Yes, we are recording them, so we'll have them all to follow up.
Great, Brenda. So I want to assure everyone that if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will follow up with you to get an answer, even if we don't have time today. Heidi or Taylor, do you have a sense of the number of students or the percentage of the student population that's actually taking advantage of the pantry? I think that's also a hard thing for us to track because we don't ask questions when students or others come into the pantry. But do you have a sense of what that number might be?
In 2021, we helped roughly 21,000 students / faculty, which is really exciting. Another thing I'd like to point out is that we do say we only need a PSU ID. So that means that not only students are coming, but graduate students professors, families, that kind of thing. Like we have a lot of families or even like research assistants that are coming in with their brothers and sisters because they all can't afford to pay for school and eat basically, and they shouldn't have to prioritize paying for school over eating. So we just try to help anyone and everyone as much as we can. So yeah.
Am I right in understanding that the 21,000 is the number of visits that the pantry had?
Yes.
Is it, yeah, okay. So a number of folks have mentioned pantries that they are organizing. If there are folks at the university who would like to sponsor a Cub Pantry, can they do that? And if they can, who should they contact?
That is, sorry, Taylor, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm really excited about this role because the Cub Pantries, at least when I started on the exec team, it was kind of this new thing that we were trying out, but it's kind of flourished into a whole position on our exec team. So Juan Rodrigo Solares is our Cub Pantries coordinator. I can put his email in the chat for you all, but if you'd like to set up a Cub Pantry, he's really good about getting back to everyone really quickly and setting up a Cub Pantry. He just worked on setting up the Cub Pantry and University Health Services, which is really exciting, as well as some of the libraries as well.
And if I could add to that, I've had the pleasure of helping Rodrigo coordinate with some of the Cub Pantries this summer. And something that's come to light is another growing pain, which is always a good sign for the pantry. And that is having conversations with the executive board about what the relationship with the pantry looks like as a Cub Pantry, and how are we able to track visits and those types of things as much as we can, and does the location of the pantries make sense as far as are they too many places, are they too concentrated, and those types of things. So those will be some of the questions that the executive board will be visiting this year, and we might be redesigning those relationships a little bit while also staying in line with the mission of the student group.
So I mentioned that the pantry is really part of a broader set of initiatives aimed at addressing food, housing, and other insecurities that students have. We have a question here about SNAP benefits, other public benefits, for instance, that students could access. Can you talk a little bit about the partnership and others in the university who can work with students to assist them in seeking out and receiving those public benefits that might be available to them?
Yes, our team in student affairs, there are representatives that are able to help walk students through the application process for SNAP. If anyone is in direct communication with the students, I would encourage them to begin that process sooner rather than later, because it is a program of the federal government and it takes some time for approval, and you'd like that to be able to use that as much as possible during the school year. Currently, SNAP benefits are accepted at East Market, and I do not know of plans or order of other areas. Did someone ask a question? No, okay. So we are working on that, and we do have a wonderful team in student resources.
What would the two of you each identify as your biggest impediment to the kind of success that you're trying to achieve? You're talking a lot about the success we're having and the ambitious plans we have, but what do you foresee as the biggest challenge to addressing food insecurity among students at Penn State?
I would say recognizing that we are a student group and that students, this is not our only obligation, and that we are a student-led, student-run organization, but that doesn't mean that we can't still get things done at the same time. It's just, it may have to get done differently than what some people envision. Sometimes we have really big ideas, but we can only pick and choose parts of that idea that can be feasible for our students, because at the end of the day, that is a part of our mission, and keeping it in-house and working with students and keeping students involved in the process and helping their other fellow students is really important to us. But we are always open to ideas and are excited to work with everyone and anyone. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we'd love to meet you and see where we can progress.
Yeah, and that complicated life that students lead, that's one of the reasons we created the position that Heidi has. And Heidi and Taylor are good at enlisting others on the staff, especially in student affairs, to help with things. I saw the invitation to help with the move into the new space. So I'll try to get over there and pitch in if I can. That assumes that I can also arrange to go to Milan, Italy, where I see Laura Fowler has identified an opportunity for us. So I may have to hop on a plane to go check that out. Heidi, would you have any comment about the single most significant impediment you see to your success?
Well, right now, I think it might be me. I was, so honored and humbled to be able to accept this position. And it's a big learning curve, an exciting learning curve. But I am seeing that really, as soon as the students set their mind to something and they can do that, that's what I'm here for. So that's great. I'm just kind of navigating the processes of how to get things done. And some of the challenges over the summer were the hours. And I think setting expectations of what to expect from the pantry would be helpful for us. For example, the interns that we're hiring, when I'm building the hours for the pantry, I don't have them predetermined and then finding the students who can fill those hours. I'm choosing the students and then building the pantry hours around their commitments and their class schedules. So they will probably change every semester over the break, but they will be posted and shared frequently. But it's not a university department. It's a student group, and the availability of the resources is dependent on the students' availability.
Taylor, would you say, there's so many students who are involved with the pantry. You guys are just doing fabulous work. And as I said before, the passion and commitment you show is just really remarkable. But my observation has been in the last few years, especially students across the university in all sorts of organizations with a variety of backgrounds really have come to understand this issue and are very supportive of the efforts you and the university are joined in. Do you think that's true, that there's a broader awareness of these issues among students than there has been before?
Yeah, definitely. I think COVID really shined a light on how prevalent this issue was, especially at University Park. A lot of people kind of just write it off as the rote college student experience, but there are people who are actually rationing their meals and skipping meals so that they have funds for other things. And that isn't okay with me. And I would prefer that they come to the pantry and take as much as they need. I don't like the idea of having students going hungry or rationing or anything like that when we have the resources to help them. So it's really just about making them aware of our resources and that we are here to help and that we do care about them. Just establishing that kind of culture of caring and that like we are excited to help them and that we are here for them, basically.
Well, that's awfully well said. I think that's probably a good place to end our conversation. I really appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon. You are part of a record crowd for one of these Noontime Knowledge Series sessions. I was told that this is the biggest gathering we've had, and I'm not surprised because I got more expressions of interest and concern around this issue probably from alums and donors than anything else these days. So that awareness that students have about the issue is growing among others within the university community. I think we're going to put a slide up with the Lions Pantry website, Heidi's contact information. I would encourage you to reach out directly to Heidi with any questions that you may have. And remember to be on the lookout for the One Big Week social media launch, which I think is August 31st. And of course, together, we're all trying to make the difference that matters among Penn State students. And these issues that we're talking about today should not be the thing that stands between a student and their success academically and with the rest of their lives. So I'm deeply appreciative of your commitment to this purpose and how we can work together on it. I am also asked to be sure to tell you to join next month's Noontime Knowledge Series, which won't have as large an attendance as we had today, I'm sure, but it will be popular nonetheless. That's on September 6th. It's going to feature a panel of 3 Penn State women's coaches, Shar Moret Curtis from field hockey, Katie Schumacher-Cawley from women's volleyball, and Clarissa Crowley with women's softball. That should be a very interesting conversation. So I hope you're able to join that. But I really, really appreciate your time and attention today. Your very good questions. We will follow up to answer those we didn't get to. If I can be helpful in any way, reach out directly to me. I'm fairly easy to find. I think that together Penn Staters can do anything. And this is a purpose that we all ought to share in and make sure that we do what is right by our students. So thank you very much for your time and attention today. Bye-bye.